The night air cut sharp against Darius Carter's cheeks as blue lights flared behind him. He slowed his stride, the chill of asphalt under his sneakers, a knotted ball of unease in his chest. He hadn't done anything, just walking home after study group. Backpack slung over one shoulder. Dot. The cruiser screeched curbside. A door slammed. Boots scraped pavement. Hands out of your pockets. The officer barked. Darius obeyed instantly, pulse spiking, backpack slipping. Street lamps hummed above, flickering, their glow catching the officer's pale face, jaw tight, eyes narrowed as if Darius were prey. I'm just heading home, sir, Darius said, voice low, careful. The cop's hand twitched toward his holster. The sound of leather creaking made Darius's throat close. You match a suspect, the man snapped. Don't move. Darius's backpack hit the ground with a soft thud. Notebooks spilled, pages fluttering. Among them, a glossy brochure slid out, its gold seal catching the light. United States Military Academy, West Point. The officer's eyes flicked down, then hardened. He ground his boot on the pamphlet until the cover crinkled. You think that makes you somebody? His voice dropped, venom sharp. You'll never be one of them. The words carved straight through Darius, colder than the October wind. His fists trembled, but he kept them visible. Every muscle screamed for restraint. A siren wailed in the distance. Closer now. Neighbors peeked from windows, curtains twitching. The officer shoved Darius against the hood of the cruiser, metal biting his ribs. Darius's breath caught half shock, half rage as the weight of the man's arm pressed him down. The radio on the cop's belt crackled alive. The blue strobes painted the street like a warning. Darius Carter stood frozen, every muscle wired tight as Officer Kane circled him. Backpack on the ground, hands where I can see them. Yes, sir, Darius said, voice steady, though his heart rattled like a drumline. Kane's flashlight beam burned across his face, then dropped to the spilled notebooks. What's this? He nudged the West Point pamphlet with his boot, lip curling. I'm a cadet, sir. I cadet. Kane barked a laugh. At West Point. Don't insult me. Darius held his breath. The officer's shadow loomed larger than the cruiser itself. A neighbor cracked her blinds open across the street. Phone raised. Another window shut quickly, as if contact with the scene might stain the viewer. I'm telling you the truth, Darius said, trying to keep calm. Kane's hand clamped his arm. Truth. The truth is, you fit a suspect description, tall black hoodie. That's enough. That's not a description. That's half the city, Darius muttered, before biting his tongue. Kane slammed him onto the hood. Metal rattled his ribs. Say that again. Darius coughed, pain shooting through his chest. I wasn't resisting. The officer's grip tightened. Silence hung heavy, except for the cruiser engine idling and the hum of street lamps back up. Arrived another officer stepping out, hesitating at the sight. Kane, dispatch just said, stay clear. Kane snapped, not loosening his hold. I've got this one. The younger cop lingered, uncertainty flickering, then looked away. Darius swallowed the acid taste of rage. He thought of his father's words. Discipline is armor. Control is survival. But the weight of Kane's hand told him armor had limits. Neighbors whispered behind glass. Phones recorded. And still, nobody intervened. The cuffs clicked shut. The night swallowed him. The cell door clanged shut like a verdict. Concrete walls, chipped paint, the sour sting of disinfectant. Darius sat on the bench, wrists raw from cuffs. Officer Kane lingered outside, smirk carved deep. Cadet, huh? Bet you thought that uniform made you bulletproof. His voice dripped mockery. Newsflasher, just another body in the system. Darius didn't answer. Silence was the only shield he had left. The desk sergeant called over, eyes flicking up from paperwork. Kane, what's the actual charge? Suspicion, Kane shot back. Fits the description. You want me to write the report, or you want another prowler loose on your watch? The sergeant shrugged, pen scratching again. Suspicion was enough. It always was. Hours bled. A fluorescent light buzzed overhead, relentless. Every time Darius closed his eyes, the memory of boots crushing his West Point brochure flashed. His jaw tightened. Kane returned, leaning against the bars like a man at ease. Tell me, Carter, what's the oath at West Point? Duty, honor, country. His grin widened. What about humiliation? That in there too. Darius's knuckles whitened on his knees. You don't get to define my honor. Kane laughed. Son, I define whatever's written in this report, and once it's in the system, it follows you forever. Cadet, soldier, janitor, writ, won't matter. From down the hall, another officer muttered, ease up, Kane. But he didn't. He pressed closer to the bars. You think West Point will back you once they smell scandal. They'll cut you loose before sunrise. You'll be nobody again. The words hit like cold water. Darius thought of his parents' faces, their sacrifices, every sleepless night bent over books. Could one officer erase it all? Footsteps echoed an older lieutenant passing through, eyes narrowing at the scene. Kane, he said, voice low, measured. Step back. Kane smirked but obeyed, only after a beat too long. The lieutenant lingered, gaze on Darius. You'll get your call soon. Then he walked on, leaving the silence heavy, unresolved. Darius's chest rose and fell. He didn't know if the words were a promise or another lie. The payphone receiver was cold against Darius's ear. Static crackled on the line as his mother's voice finally answered. Darius, baby, where are you? It's past midnight. His throat tightened. I'm at the precinct, Mom. They picked me up. What? For what? Her voice pitched sharp with fear. What did you do? I didn't do anything. I was walking home. They said I fit a description. A pause, then muffled shuffling, his father's voice entering, put him on speaker. Son, his father's tone was calm, but iron underneath. What's your charge? There isn't one. They're just holding me. Through the line, his father exhaled slowly. Let me speak to the desk sergeant. Darius extended the receiver through the bars. The sergeant accepted with visible reluctance. This is Sergeant Lowell. This is James Carter, his father said, voice steady. You're holding my son without probable cause. I need details, now. Lowell's eyes flicked toward Kane, who leaned against the wall, arms folded. Kane mouthed silently. Keep it vague. Your son matches a suspect. We're confirming. He's fine. Fine. His father's voice sharpened. He's a cadet at West Point. You're risking his career. Click. Lowell hung up. Darius's chest hollowed. Why did you? Lowell avoided his eyes. Policy. Hours dragged. A second call was allowed. This time, his mother's voice trembled. We found a lawyer. He's on his way. Before Darius could reply, the line went dead, cut short by the sergeant's curt motion. That's it. Back in the cell, Kane strolled past, whistling. Lawyers, cute, but remember, time's on our side, not yours. Darius pressed his palms against his knees, forcing stillness. He thought of the brochure crushed under a boot, of the oath he had yet to take, of the silence tightening like a noose around him. The system wasn't built to hear him, and the echoes of that silence grew louder. The news spread faster than Darius could. By morning, whispers rippled across campus halls, dorm lounges, group chats. He got arrested. One cadet muttered, phone glowing in his hand. What for? No charges, just suspicion. A beat of silence followed. Then another voice. That's code for walking while black. Some nodded, uneasy. Others shifted, eyes darting. In a dorm room across campus, Kayla scrolled through a shaky phone, video grainy, but clear enough. Kane shoving Darius against the cruiser hood, cuffing him hard. She bit her lip. Should I post it? Her roommate, Evan, looked alarmed. That could blow up. You want trolls in your mentions. They'll come after you too. Kayla hesitated, thumb hovering. The clip replayed, Darius's muffled voice echoing through tinny speakers. I wasn't resisting. Down the hall, a group debated. Look, it's not our problem. He's one of us. A cadet. Yeah, but if the academy thinks he's trouble, you mean if the academy thinks he's black? The words landed like a slap. Silence followed, thicker than concrete. Meanwhile, at the precinct, Darius sat hunched, still waiting. Every passing minute felt like abandonment. Back on campus, Kayla finally exhaled. If I stay quiet, I'm part of it. She hit upload. The clip was live within seconds. Instructors saw it. Cadets whispered louder. One text chain buzzed with worry. If we say nothing, we're cowards. If we say something, we're targets. Darius didn't know any of this yet. He sat in his cell, fluorescent light humming, heartbeat sinking to its flicker. The silence weighed more than chains. And far away, on countless screens, that silence cracked open. The review room at West Point was sterile, polished wood table, flags pressed tight against the wall, the academy crest gleaming under harsh light. Darius sat stiff in his chair, uniform neat, despite the exhaustion shadowing his eyes. Across from him, 3 officers studied a folder. Inside, Kane's report, words that twisted reality. Cadet Carter, Colonel Hayes began, his tone clipped. According to the police record, you resisted instructions during a stop. Is that correct? Darius's jaw clenched. No, sir. I complied fully. Major Reynolds leaned forward. The officer claims you were confrontational. With respect, sir, that's false. He pushed me before I said a word. The folder closed with a snap. Silence pulsed. From the back of the room, another cadet whispered to his neighbor. I saw the video. He's telling the truth. Keep it down, the neighbor muttered. Fear coated his voice. The officers continued. We've also received footage circulating online, Hayes said carefully, but internet clips can be misleading. Darius swallowed hard. Sir, that video shows exactly what happened. Reynolds raised a brow. So you're suggesting a sworn officer fabricated his report? Yes, sir. The air went rigid. Outside the room, cadets clustered in the hall. Their whispers sharp. He's finished. They'll drop him. No, they can't ignore the video. They can. They want to. Back inside, Hayes folded his hands. Until we verify further, your standing remains under review. Dismissed. Darius rose, saluted, and walked out. The weight of eyes drilling into his back. In the corridor, Kayla caught his Officer Kane sat in the break room, coffee steaming in his hand. Voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Kids, a liar, typical. They all play victim once the cuffs click. Laughter trickled from two younger officers, forced, nervous. One older officer stared at the table, saying nothing. The door creaked. Lieutenant Morales entered, file tucked under his arm. His gaze swept the room before landing on Kane. Need a word? Kane smirked. Sure, Lieutenant. Want to congratulate me for keeping the streets safe. Morales didn't answer. He walked him down the hall to an empty office, shut the door, and laid a folder flat on the desk. Inside were still images from the leaked video. Kane's hand on Darius's back, the shove against the hood, the cuffs snapping shut. Kane's jaw flexed. Out of context. Always out of context. Morales's tone stayed even. The context shows you using unnecessary force, and the kid wasn't resisting. He fit the description. Kane's voice hardened. Tall, black, hoodie. What else did I need? Morales's eyes narrowed. Probable cause. For a beat. Silence pressed the room. Meanwhile, across town, Kayla's upload was gaining traction. Local blogs picked it up. Hashtags began circulating. Hashtag justice. Hashtag cuffed for existing. On campus, cadets scrolled furiously, debating in whispers. This could blow up nationally. Good, maybe that's what it takes. Back at the precinct, Kane leaned across the desk, lowering his voice. You're really going to side with him over me? You know how this city works. My word stands. His doesn't. Morales didn't blink. Not this time. Internal Affairs is watching. Kane snorted, but a shadow flickered behind his smirk. That night, news anchors spoke in clipped tones over shaky footage. Commentators argued on panels. One anchor's line cut sharp. The video directly contradicts Officer Kane's written report. For the first time, the armor of the badge cracked, and Kane felt the fracture deep in his bones. By morning, Darius's name was everywhere. Cable news rolled the grainy footage on repeat. Pundits filled the air with clashing voices. Clear misconduct. One said flatly, let's not rush to judgment. Another countered, officers face tough calls. Context matters. The host cut in, eyes sharp. The context is on video. Across the country, timelines flooded. Hashtag justice for Darius trended. His face spliced into graphics beside bold headlines. Strangers debated his worth, his innocence, his very identity, as though he were a case study instead of a person. In his cell, Darius listened to the echo of a guard's radio. His name spilled out between ads and traffic updates, stripped of voice, carried by others. At West Point, cadets huddled around screens. Kayla bit her lip as an anchor repeated Kane's words. I did my job. He matched the suspect. I stand by my actions. They gave him airtime. Evan muttered. He's trying to control the story, Kayla replied, and people will believe him. On local radio, Kane's voice dripped confidence. I don't care what some shaky video shows. I protected this community. End of story. The host hesitated, but the suspect was already in custody. Kane cut him off. Information changes fast in the field. I made a split-second decision. I'd do it again. That line burned through broadcasts like gasoline. Protests sprouted. Students marched with signs outside the academy gates. Duty, honor, truth. Downtown, crowds gathered at the precinct, chanting Darius's name until the sound shook the glass. Inside, he sat still, shoulders squared. Though his pulse thundered, the world was finally listening, but they were listening to Kane, too. and the firestorm was only growing hotter. The hearing chamber brimmed with tension. Polished floors reflected the overhead lights. Microphones lined the long oak table, and rows of seats behind the railing held cadets, reporters, and city residents. Every cough, every shuffle, echoed sharp as a gunshot. Darius sat on one side, uniform pressed, jaw tight. Across from him, Officer Kane leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, smirk intact. Colonel Hayes's voice carried. "We are here to assess conflicting accounts of the incident involving Cadet Carter and Officer Kane. Both will testify." Kane spoke first, voice loud, authoritative. "On the night in question, I observed a male matching a suspect description. He became confrontational. I used minimal force to restrain him." Reporters scribbled, some nodded. Then the video played on screens mounted above. Kane's hand shoving the slam against the hood. Darius's words, "I wasn't resisting." Gasps rippled through the chamber. Kane's face stiffened, but he pushed forward. "What you see is controlled restraint. Without full context, it looks harsher than it was." Darius leaned toward the microphone, voice steady but edged. "Sir, the only thing I resisted was humiliation. I followed every order." He chose to escalate. Kane snorted. "Of course you'd say that. You people never." He stopped. Too late. The slip hung in the air like a blade. The room froze. A reporter's pen stilled mid. Hayes's eyes narrowed. "Clarify, officer, you people." Kane's jaw worked, but words stumbled. "I meant cadets, young cadets." No one believed it. The murmurs grew louder, feeding into one another. Darius didn't flinch. His gaze locked on Kane. "The truth's right there on the screen. No report can erase it. No word can twist it." Kane's smirk faltered. For the first time, he looked cornered, and the room knew it. The chamber was silent when the panel returned. Papers shuffled, boots echoed across tile, but no one dared speak until Colonel Hayes cleared his throat. "After review of testimony, official reports, and video evidence," he began, voice clipped, "this panel finds that Officer Kane used excessive force and falsified elements of his report." The words landed like hammer blows. Reporters lunged forward, pens scratching. Kane's jaw locked, face paling beneath the fluorescent lights. Hayes continued, "Effective immediately. Officer Kane is suspended pending dismissal and review for potential civil liability." Gasps broke out. The smirk Kane had worn for weeks was gone, replaced by the hollow stare of a man whose armor had cracked beyond repair. Across the chamber, Darius sat straighter. Hayes turned to him. "Cadet Carter, your record will reflect no wrongdoing. You are hereby reinstated in full standing at the Academy." Applause rippled softly, uneven, not unanimous. Some cadets clapped, others shifted uncomfortably. Darius's chest rose, but the relief was sharp-edged. The scars of the night weren't erased. Later, outside the chamber, reporters swarmed. "Cadet Carter, do you feel vindicated? Are you planning legal action? What message do you have for the community?" Darius paused, eyes scanning the flashing cameras, the microphones thrust near his mouth. "I just want to serve with honor," he said, "but understand what happened to me could happen to anyone. That's the problem." The words cut clean. Silence followed, heavier than applause. That night, at home, sleep wouldn't come. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt the slam of the hood, heard Kane's voice dripping. Contempt. Vindication hadn't erased the memory. The scars would follow him. And though Kane's downfall was sealed, Darius knew the system that enabled him still stood. The fight wasn't finished. The parade field shimmered. Under morning sun, brass buttons flashing, boots striking in perfect rhythm. The induction ceremony pulsed with ritual, the cadence of drums, the steady swell of a marching band. The sea of uniforms in unison. Darius Carter stood among them, back straight, eyes fixed forward. The crowd's applause washed over him, but his ears kept replaying a different sound. The snap of cuffs, the hiss of a voice calling him "you people" from the reviewing stand. Generals nodded, faces carved from stone. Parents waved from the bleachers, flags rippling in the breeze. Somewhere in that crowd, his mother wept quietly into his father's shoulder. Pride and fear braided together. The announcer's voice rang clear. "Cadet Carter, United States Military Academy." Applause surged. Darius stepped forward. The uniform fit like armor, but the memory beneath it still burned. Across town, Kane sat in a bare apartment, blinds half drawn. His badge lay on the counter, turned in days earlier. The phone buzzed with reporters, lawyers, debt collectors. He ignored them all, staring at the blank wall. His career, reputation, and power, all gone. What remained was silence, the same silence he once used as a weapon. Now it was a cell of his own making. Back on the field, Darius raised his hand in salute. Cameras clicked. The oath he was preparing to take weighed heavier now, sharper with meaning. Duty, honor, country. He whispered the words under his breath, not for the crowd, not for the cameras, but for himself. Because he knew justice was never final, it was only the next march, and he was still marching.